Welcome, dear readers, to Cover My Ass, where baffling books are reviewed but not read by yours truly. My name is Khaki.
And I'm Kay, and remember, we only judge a book by its cover. And today's book is The Price of Temptation by M.J. Pearson.
Yes, I'm very excited about today's book, but perhaps a few small details need to be explained to the readers first. Obviously, we're very excited to be recording today on the deck of the Threegle 2, which is what I'm calling it when these vehicles that I made out of, just catching all the readers up on the unnecessary lore, that I made out of the IKEA bookcases of your library, a bicycle and a canoe and the hang glider that's serving as a sail.
With the beautifully colourful feathers from last year's molting season, I believe.
Yes, and I'm going to use this to brave the complex and diverse landscape of your truly wondrous library, of which I've explored only a tiny, tiny fraction, in search of the Velociraptors and their possible breeding ground. So how's your week been in the meantime?
Oh, I've just been doing library things, catching up on a bit of cataloguing and doing some light reading by the fireplace, and like getting disturbed by lots of hammering and drilling. I don't know. Where did you find a power drill?
Who's to say? But obviously, as a junior librarian, I know that silence is a requirement of the library, but it can't be helped. It's interesting, of course, that we have such very different ideas of library things, because mine tends to be more like, honestly, I'm more of a zookeeper.
I never had that problem before you arrived here, so
I'm very excited to discover more about the library. So we're doing a quick recording, and then I'll be setting off, and the next time that we speak, it will hopefully be mid-journey.
Look to westward.
Is that a reference to something?
It's the title of a book.
You'd expect me as a librarian to know that, but I'm only a junior librarian. So it might be in a section that I haven't discovered yet.
Yeah,
hey,
well,
I'm really looking forward to reading it then. In the course of my journey as Khaki, the great explorer.
If it goes missing, I'll know where it is.
That's not how missing works, Kay.
Okay, if it's not on the shelf where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, okay, that's more
and
like
it's
it.
not been properly checked out, then I just assume you have it.
That's a safe assumption to make.
If you come across one of my 4 copies of Starship Troopers, then pick that up and we'll put that back with the others if you could.
Do they go wandering, these books?
So I tend to loan them out to people, and then, well, you know what they say, never loan a book that you don't expect.
Yes.
Which is a bit weird if you own a library.
A library. Yeah, I love those wandering books. I've never encountered one, but the idea is that you just leave it for someone, and you can print out like a sticker to put on the front that says, "Hello, I am a book and I'm free. I was left here for you by such and such, and here and here. Please enjoy it and leave it somewhere else for someone else to find it." You can leave your name or the place where you left it, and you can just see like what kind of journey that has had. And it's
near my parents' place. There's a old phone booth, which is a little public library type thing, where there's just like books.
A book exchange.
Yeah, a book exchange. And it's just like an old phone booth, one of those green triangular ones that we have over here.
Yeah, that nobody uses.
That's been converted to a little book
shrine
exchange.
To literature. That's lovely. So the other thing that we need to talk about is that this is a very special episode.
Oh?
In the illustrious history of this podcast, now 49 episodes, every single one of them has been rated explicit for one reason or another.
Right.
Either wordy dirt or some challenging material, or perhaps an off-color joke, or just playing it safe. But I think this time we've landed on a book, and that is the Price of Temptation, that we can describe in a parental guidance but family-friendly manner.
Right. Does that mean we're allowed one F-bomb?
I think actually no.
Oh.
I think we'll have none of that.
All right.
Unless perhaps it's very funny, and then we'll look up the rules and
we'll see if we can
see.
Yes. Well, I think we could. I mean, it's like innocent enough.
Exactly. Because describing the cover in just a moment of A Price of Temptation, and if you look down at your podcasting device, you should be seeing the cover of today's book, and otherwise you can check the show notes for the image and a link. And we've got two fancy young gentlemen who are obviously the very best of friends, and perhaps you'd care to read the synopsis on the back cover.
Yes. A very special friendship blossoms between 2 young men from different worlds. One, a dashing rooster-tamer whose wild independence threatens threatens his inheritance of his mother's nut butter fortune, and the other a simple butter-churner from a low-born family of pipe cleaners who dreams of becoming a theatre backstagehand.
See, I was immediately charmed by this because it's such a sweet setup for a story where
wholesome,
exactly.
Victorian-esque.
I don't fully know the difference between like Edwardian and Elizabethan and Victorian and Georgian
depends
like dress
on the
and style and architecture.
No, it depends on the ruler at the time.
No, obviously, but I don't remember which order they went in, and I also don't remember which styles to associate with them. Except I think Victorian is where we got our
Victorian's around is when Cats plays, because one of the Cats has been around since before Victoria reigned. So Victorians, I think, believe like
the musical Cats. Not when Cats were invented,
no,
because I'm sure the Egyptians were like, no, they're ours.
Yes, Mao. That's like what cats are called in Egyptian. It's called a Mao.
Yes,
like it just happens in like ancient Egypt, and this like guy standing there by the Nile, and this cat comes wandering up, and the guy goes like, "Oh, what are you then?" And the cat goes, "Mao." Oh, okay.
Did you see that thing by the river? Yeah, what's it called? It's the thing. You know what I mean with the whiskers and the tails.
The one that went Mao.
Mao. Oh, yeah, yes. That one.
Yeah. But yes, I think that Edwardian is after Victorian, because I think wasn't Edward Elizabeth's father?
See, I just don't know. I know Victorian because that's where we get our suits from. Because if I'm not mistaken, like that's the era when like mass manufacture started to become possible, and then whatever happened to be the haute couture style at the time with the lapels and the jackets and the shirt collars that we know now and the type of tie that we know now.
Yes.
That was the fashion at the time, and that became the aspirational fashion that was mass manufactured to the middle class.
I read a story about that a while ago, about some person who completely dominated
Beau Brummel.
That's the one, yes.
Yes, for better or worse.
Reviled by some.
Yeah, he was the prototypical dandy.
Yes, and he imposed his style of suit in which we are still suffering.
It's a terrible restriction of imagination. I mean, you had lots of different styles of collar and even necktie.
Well, collars still vary in styles. The size of the, what do you call the lapels?
The lapels, yes.
They vary. You can get them wide, you can get them narrow, and that kind of varies with fashion, but that's just such a tiny thing.
There were many different styles of collar. There were upstanding collar that had the wings that we nowadays only use with bow ties.
Yes, it seems so limiting for men to be restricted to that. Like, I mean, that's your suit, and that's what you're supposed to wear if you're in business or if you're going to a formal occasion.
Exactly.
And that's it.
There used to be all sorts of different styles. Like, I'm fond of the open collar shirt. Like, I like a shirt.
Yes.
It sits well and it's very comfortable, but I don't like my neck constricted too much. So I like the open collar shirt, and like pair that with a cravat, which is like a sort of little scarf that you wear under your open collar. That's very comfortable and still keeps your neck warm. Also, a multitude of hats.
Speaking of collar styles, I think we have our
yes.
Well,
we should describe this. I'm really enjoying this wholesome
discussion.
banter.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, no, exactly.
So yeah, we have definitely the puffy styles.
Let's explore the front.
Styles. Yes.
Yes.
I mean, there's definitely
blousing.
some exploring going on there.
Yeah. So we have a seated gentleman and his very, very good friend standing near him, showing off the blousing of his shirt, and a very cool feature of his trousers that relates to his profession. That the impressed young man, who's I think in fact wearing a cravat,
looks like it. Yes.
Yeah.
He's got a very peculiar low lapel on his shirt.
And a lovely, it looks like a velvet frock coat.
Yes.
And a cool hairstyle.
Long hair to the shoulder length hair. Whereas the other man has a more mussed-up hairstyle and is sporting a bit of a beard.
Yeah, this has to be the rakish, dashing rooster-tamer.
Oh yes,
Alan DeGeneres.
Mm-hmm.
Who is one of the protagonists of this book. And the other one is Simon Love, and he is the young butter-churner in the employ of Alan DeGeneres' mother's...
Oh, his mother built the family fortune on nut buttering.
And since then, she's acquired some employees, including young Simon Love.
And I think in the background, at first I thought it was a portrait, maybe of the late father of the boy.
I thought.
But I do, in retrospect, think it is actually a mirror. What we're seeing is Aloysius Gigglestick, the butler.
Yes.
Who's got a slightly shocked expression on his face.
He's a bit of a puckish figure in the book. Obviously, it was incredibly improper for these young two men of different social standings to become such very, very, very good friends.
He's Alan's valet.
His manservant, his right hand, whose family has served the lords and ladies of the estate Brokeback Manor for many generations.
Well, ever since the nut butter fortune started coming in big,
people are just crazy for nut butter, aren't they?
I can't believe it's nut butter.
Yes. What a droll joke that was. But yes, grinding up pistachios and hazelnuts and obviously the classic peanut. You can't beat the classics. But even if you take something like almond, I mean, that's almost marzipan if you grind it up.
Just add sugar and you've got.
It was highly prized among the classical Arabs, if I'm not mistaken. It was a delicacy for the aristocracy with some sugar.
Oh.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. Almond paste. It was delicious.
Seems to make it is. You can make me up for a croissant, like those croissant-y things that you get in the French regions.
You mean croissants?
No, they're not croissants. They're like flaky pastries, but they've got like a filling of almondy pasty filling, and they are absolutely amazing. Yes,
that exists. Well, so yeah, so
off the Alps you are. I think the Beagle 3-2 is on a bit of a
the Threegle may make a pit stop.
Threegle 2 in the Vanoise region of France, where they.
Oh, I thought there was a joke there with noix being French for nut.
No. Vanoise is just a region. It's like the skiing area, I think, or is it Savoy? I think it's Savoy actually, but also known for its wine and fondue. So I'm sure you would you'd do well there.
You'd think so. Fondue, the flavor of fondue cheeses is not like something that I go. I like that. I like them much like Alan DeGeneres repeats several times when he's talking about how he likes his cheeses.
Yes,
young and smooth and
butter drippings of crumpets
and cream filled. Yes, exactly. Yes. Much like your special croissants. That's
almond paste, but yes,
I like how they met. It's a really cute meeting that they have. Obviously, young Simon Love is a hardworking butter churner whose hands are completely greasy because of this incredible labor. And the higher lords and ladies would never deign to come down to Finger Alley, where most of the butter churning takes place. Mm-hmm. But Alan is no such stuck-up stiff. He's actually quite delighted to come down and see how the sausage is made, as it were.
He does like to keep an eye on the family fortune, even though he spends it thriftily, much more so than his mother would like him to.
He doesn't want to follow in her footsteps.
He is a patron of the arts, which is in fact what draws his attention to young Simon, churning the nut butters.
Yeah, he's driving his fingers deep into the sort of greasy, kneading it between his fingers, occasionally licking his fingers.
It's a bit like elbow grease, but
getting right in there. And he's just impressed with his splendid technique. Yeah,
and while he's doing so, he's like reciting a little bit of theatre, a speech that he's been heard. Because, as we say, he wants to become a backstagehand, and it's like he's always wants to show off his knowledge of the theatre.
Oh, yes, of course.
The two get talking, and you can say that there's a spark.
Definitely, coming from such different worlds, they have so many interests in common. The social intercourse they share is obviously immensely intimate because they very quickly talk about how both of them feel sort of trapped by the destinies that their families have for them.
I mean, the whole pipe cleaning business is a thing that much more people are starting to do on their own. It's like
exactly.
Not everybody has a personal pipe cleaner anymore, and it's like a lot of people are taking things in their own hand when it comes to that sort of thing.
Yeah, especially since nowadays you can readily acquire just a jar of knob polish. Mm-hmm. You don't need a special knob polisher to clean your pipe anymore. No, you can just polish your own knob.
You got those little specialty devices which you can insert into
the plunger that you sort of penetrate into the shaft,
and then you kind of like.
And it makes a weird sound when you put it in. Doesn't it?
It's a bit of a squishy sound.
It's a weird sort of sounding kind of instrument.
Exactly, that's it.
I've never quite understood the appeal. See, I just like a good pipe cleaner. Right. That is a fine profession.
Especially when there's people taking pride in a job well done. And
I mean, they always get it in the end.
And you can come along and...
If at first you don't succeed...
Try again.
Alan becomes interested in exploring. He at first calls it menial labor.
Well, certainly it's more manual labor, but yes, menial too.
Yeah, as Simon explains to him. I mean, he doesn't mean to be classist, but he's been raised with a certain disdain for the lower classes that has just seeped into all conversation.
So I guess it's internalized. You don't even realize that you're doing it unless someone is pointing out
exactly.
I loathe to use the word, but it's pointing out your privilege.
Certainly, he gradually grows in his awareness that he's always been on top, and there are people on the bottom.
Yeah, you can't have one without the other.
Well, one has the opportunity to switch, which is kind of what he wants to do.
True.
So after he explores becoming a sausage slinger, to pretty great effect, that's when he finally realizes his true calling as a rooster tamer, as he's rearing all of this cattle.
Yeah, cattle when it's birds.
I mean, poultry. Yeah, it turns out that he has a taste for chicken.
Well, yes.
He's a bit of a chicken
hawk. That, yes. I mean, he is also a very crafty butcher. It makes for a good combination.
What a fortuitous thing that having always been a bit of a crafty butcher, he's obviously a dab hand at the old sausage slinging, which Simon Love is immensely impressed with.
I mean, he's not seen a sling like that back in his own village. I mean, there's the old butcher in town there, but he's like a little bit past his prime.
Oh yeah, he just stays in his cottage.
Yeah,
So being impressed with Alan's vigorous sausage slinging,
yes.
It's clear to us as readers that Alan clearly favours the chickens.
Not the chicks, but...
He's got a taste for chicken and rooster in particular. Like he loves a nice firm rooster, which is a great surprise to him. But so he wants to become a rooster tamer, but how to acquire his first stock, his poultry, I think.
Well, poultry, that's one, not cattle. But yes, it's a good thing that young Simon knows a little bit more about things like that, because him being not from the big city, but from the country.
Yes, exactly.
So,
city mouse, country mouse.
Yeah, so the two take a trip over the bridge to Pimpleton to see about acquiring some roosters for Alan the Generous. And of course, like only roosters. I mean, he is a little bit over-focused on the rooster taming thing. But I mean, then you have to keep getting new ones. And
obviously when it fails, as Simon says, "Oh, didn't I tell you so? My oh gosh, what excellent friends we are, aren't we? Gosh, yes, yes, indeed we are." They say as they row down the river on a lazy summer's day, reading each other's poetry.
Yes,
just casually punting from shore to shore. But he's undeterred, and having spent his allowance, he nevertheless wants to get some more, and he convinces Simon to join him in some thievery. But how will we transport these fowl out of the roosts where we steal them?
Traditionally, you stuff them down your pants, I believe.
Yes, indeed, and that's what he's showing off in the cover. His pants have been modified for budgie smuggling, which also works with roosters.
Yeah. I mean, you have to make it a little bit bigger, but
yeah. I mean, you can see that the protrusion, shall we say, is more substantial. But there's quite a big rooster in his pants.
There is,
and Simon is just fawning over it.
He's what marvel of couture! What a beautiful cut of your trousers. It's it's almost unnoticeable that there's a whole rooster being smuggled out there.
Yes, exactly. Of course, you have to make sensible choices which side you dress it on, but...
Well, to the left, clearly, in this picture. I mean, it's a good thing that they didn't go to the theatre, you know?
Nobody's smuggling a budgie.
No, and then you run the risk that you're sitting there and the woman next to you suddenly sees that something's poking out of the man's trousers, who nudges her husband and goes you see what that man's got sticking out of his pants? Husband goes have you seen one? You've seen them all. Yes, but this one's eating my popcorn.
Yes. Yeah, so he leaves his ill-gotten gains in, I mean, it's rather an absurd place to put them. He doesn't really have a good roost, so he just leaves them in this banana-shaped hammock that he has lying around. It's the closest thing to an enclosure.
They do go for some basket shopping, and...
yeah, much more successful.
Which is
quite a substantial basket.
Absolutely. The rooster does need a little bit of room to move around.
It's like some breathing room. It doesn't need to flex on occasion. You know, roosters, they're vicious peckers. And since Simon has been such a good sport and supporting Alan in his exploration of alternative employment in defiance of
his mother's wishes,
he believes firmly in reciprocation.
Especially firmly.
Very firm reciprocation. He's generous and immediate in that. And he knows that Simon, I mean, all of his family have pinned their hopes for elevating their social status on young Simon, because they being pipe cleaners, a moribund industry, can't hope to...
Yeah, on the decline.
Yeah, but for Simon to turn their family into a respected family of butter-churners, certainly for something as glamorous as nut butter. My son comes home covered in nut butter every day. His hands are
soft and silky.
Yes, exactly. It's wonderful for the skin, isn't it? And a great source of vitamin C and protein. Calcium too, I believe. Various other minerals that you...
That's very good. I mean, nuts are very heavy on the water production.
And they benefit from some mild refrigeration, which is why you usually store your nuts in a sack outside.
Yeah, you don't want to get them overheated because then it gets sweaty. And
you certainly don't want to get nuts crushed.
I mean, some people do.
That makes for bad butter.
Yeah, but some people like their nuts crushed. But it's
that's true. That's true. You're very right.
To each their own.
And to Simon, it's the theatre, that hall of glory. And so Alan takes Simon to the famous Glory Hall in town.
Yes. Where he's a patron. Frequent.
Kneeling in the pews. It was this weird sort of combination church and, what is it, like a puppet show or something?
I think it was a performance art of something.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool.
I think there's quite a lot of nut butter being produced here as well for some odd reason, which seems like a strange combination. I guess with
free samples being given out, certainly, while people are gape-mouthed staring at a sword swallower.
Quite some spectacular acts. It's also quite interesting how in-depth they are described in the book.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
Certainly like the gymnasts and
several long pages of intricate ballet, I would call it.
Very
expressive, very
wholesome works of art displaying mythical histories such as the adventures of Achilles and Patroclus, or Ganymede, Hyacinth, and of course the epic of Priapus and Dionysus and the wonderful parties that they had. Like the sort of jolly atmosphere.
It's a good troupe that's working there, calling themselves the Friends of Dorothy.
That's right, the Friends of Dorothy. I mean, they're kind of a secretive group.
They
really have to. I mean, I understand that certain elements in the clergy have expended significant resources trying to find the Friends of Dorothy.
Yes. Well, that is. I mean, if there is a villain in this book, it would be the Cardinal. It seems to have some near Asian connection to Mr. Cardinal Ramar, Anas Ramar.
Yes. Also of the Brokeback Ramars.
Yes.
He's a bit of an antagonist, but
he comes around.
He gets it in the end.
But I think the book definitely has a happy end.
They do have to deal with the fact that both of them, in order to fulfill their heart's desires, they have to disappoint their families. That's a choice that they have to make, unfortunately.
Yes, it's little melancholy atmosphere, which is
every rose has its thorn, doesn't it?
Yes, very much so.
And a story is all the sweeter for having a
little bit of bitter in it, because it needs a little bit of excitement in the story, a little bit of spice of life.
Yes, much like nut butter. Like, if there's no salt in your nut butter, what are you even eating?
Exactly.
There are happy coincidences. Obviously, after Simon is adopted into the Friends of Dorothy to become a backstagehand, to help fluff up all the pillows and cover the back door.
Yeah, it turns out that a little bit of rooster wrangling actually brings in some extra money off the books, which Alan can then use to grease the palms of the Friends of Dorothy to give Simon a hand up.
Yeah, grease the palms, plump the cheeks. The same happens for Alan as well. After, obviously, his mother and father are outraged at his rooster taming, they do discover, because of the various resources that he had to acquire in order to maintain his rooster, that they have potentially an untapped market in seed butter. Where, like pumpkin seeds, like there's all sorts of highly nutritious, extremely tasty seed that people would just love to just scoop up a fingerful and just
lick it right off. Or just go straight for the source.
Yeah, that's for the butter-churners. That's one of the great privileges. And so our heroes, I mean, I do love a happy ending.
Oh, yes.
And I'd like to see everyone coming together in the glory hall. It's usually kind of an anonymous place, but now
there's some good performances going on there. And,
very impressive.
Everybody, everybody gets the pleasure of a job well done, and
there's
people
immense satisfaction.
And the people in the audience get
everyone leaves satisfied.
Oh, yes.
And it even ends on a sort of hopeful note where they find themselves once more in Finger Alley, and Alan goes, "Oh, what? Look at this walnut I found! Oh, what a wonderful walnut this is!" And
so good, nice and firm. This will just help getting some butter churned up.
Yes, exactly. So the nut butter future is secure, because between the seed butter and Alan's and Simon's discovery of this magical walnut.
I think things got a bit weak at the end, but
it just sort of slackens.
The climax of the book had already passed at that point, and there's a bit of a warm afterglow.
I had a really wonderful time reviewing this book, and I was so pleased that it was so thoroughly wholesome through and through.
It's like a great book to do a completely clean episode on. It's like we just have to refrain from using profanity.
I did thoroughly inspect it before we agreed that this would be the explicit free episode, penetrating, probing between the covers. So I'm glad we all came out satisfied. And if you've been left satisfied, please do leave leave us a review of our plucky little podcast on your service of choice. Obviously, we like a nice star, but 5 stars is better. We like a nice spread. Hey, but if you really want to get into the spirit of things, how about you review an episode you haven't listened to yet and just imagine what it's about?
That's the thing we do.
Speaking of doing things.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Kay.
Yes.
Was it good for you?
I loved it.
Yeah, me too.
It scratched my itch.
So, how are we going to rate this book? Allow me just to swipe it to the right so we can clear our table for the rating. Now, what's a good stiff score that we can give this this fine, upstanding piece of literature?
Let's see.
Oh, obviously 69.
Oh, we've done 69 before, haven't we?
Are we admitting that on the podcast?
Well.
Honestly, I think this will be our first time 69ing.
It'll be a new experience.
But a nice one. I think that's a really nice number that everyone can enjoy. So out of 69.
68 and I'll owe you one? I mean...
Yes, that's fine. That's excellent. So, hey, Kay, what do we have in store for our readers next week?
Yes, next week's reading is This Book by
Oh my God! Kay, you've ruined it!
I think we can say that.
And that about covers it. Thank you for joining us. Don't say it again. That's maybe the only one we get. Thank you for joining us. I'd cover my ass. I can't believe you. Where baffling books are reviewed but not read, and we're not reading that one. By yours truly, my name is Khaki.
And I'm Kay, and remember...
so mad at you right now.
Only judge a book by its cover.
What were you thinking? This was the one that
6 weeks ago. I didn't think...
This was fantastic.